I can remember when I started here 15 years ago, you wouldn't see cars parked on the side of Lodge Road. There was enough capacity for the public to just be able to park in our parking lots here at ADK. Now you have cars parking up to 3 miles down the road. So those kind of observations just make it apparent that we're in a situation where now our facilities need to be updated and our approaches to manage the forest preserve need to change. The High Peaks is a perfect example of a trail network that is in desperate need. So we have most of the trails in the High Peaks have never seen routine annual maintenance performed on them. And even though when maybe they were redesigned or rerouted in sections, they were done to sustainable trail standards, they were never followed up with the appropriate level of maintenance needed to keep those trails in a state of preservation. So what you've got is really an unfortunate situation where the state is spending tens of thousands of dollars fixing sections of trails in the High Peaks and then never following up with the maintenance that's required to maintain and to preserve that work that's been completed. And it's really a shame. I think one of the big things that New York State can do moving forward to adapt and to create sustainable trails in the High Peaks region is to allocate funding for trail maintenance. I think that's really critical. If you're really serious about creating a sustainable trail, maintenance needs to be a priority.
Well, I think it's been great having lots of new people up here hiking. But it obviously is a concern for the trails because we need people to get out and help maintain them. Whether they're paid crews or volunteers. I've worked with the 46ers. It's an awesome group, and we've done a lot of trail work and maintenance, but there's only so many people in a group like that. And so we need all these new hikers to give back in their own way, whether it's through money to pay for trail maintenance or through donating some time. Just a weekend would be great. We're definitely, I think, overemphasizing the top 46, and there's so many other great mountains out there. So that would help give people, especially families with young children, more opportunities to go to other types of places. But in terms of what can we do to maintain it, I think we just have to be really careful with simple things like if you have to go to the bathroom, make sure that you're well off the trail. If you carry it in, carry it out. Leaving no trace is really important. I think just getting more people out to help educate the people that are on the trails, whether it's volunteers up at Marcy Dam standing there and sort of explaining what the area is all about, or people that are trail stewards up on top of the mountains. I mean, it's so important to keep them off the alpine vegetation. So just getting more people involved at the beginning of the trails, you know, where are you going today? Do you have the right things? And make that way it can be a positive experience, but also help keep the trails in better shape.
So I'm Joe Pete Wilson. I'm the supervisor for the town of Keene, and the town of Keene, to help address the demand for parking at the garden and the high level of use we see during the hiking season. About 20 years ago, the town partnered with DEC and the Department of Transportation to build a shuttle system here. So the town administers a shuttle that runs here from Marcy Field right down on Route 73 up to the Garden Trailhead, which is part state land and part private property. That's also the access to a lot of popular hikes like Big Slide, the Great Range, and it's access to the Johnsbrook Valley where there's lots of camping. It's a very popular destination, and the parking lot can only hold about 45 cars, so it fills up every day during the summer. And this was an effort by the town and the state to make sure that there was access there, that the people could get to state land without having to park on people's yards or block the streets in town.
In the last few years, we stopped coming during the summer just because there was more effort in thinking about how you were going to find a parking spot than actually thinking about your physicality and a long hike. So we know that the shuttle started operating on the 17th, and we didn't want to combat with the lodge, didn't want to combat with AMR reservation systems, so we said, well, we'll just take the shuttle and do a quick hike up Big Slide. Last year we were just driving by AMR. It was disconcerting because of the amount of traffic, of foot traffic on the roads and cars all over the place. So I support everything that they're doing. It is what it is, but it was crazy last year just driving through.
So I don't know if you would say it's overuse. Clearly these trails, you know, find the nearest stream bed and go up. And that's just not gonna stand up over the test of time for the amount of hikers there are. But the mountains are pretty resilient. I don't think there's like overuse. Certainly some people don't follow leave no trace, but generally I think the trails have been pretty clean. I've kind of taken to winter hiking now, so definitely less people, but even winter hikes now on weekends, getting parking is pretty competitive. Let's put it that way. You still have to be very early in the winter. So
2021 is an absolute anomaly. 2020 during pandemic and all the lockdown restrictions was the busiest year ever, and it was that busy even without Canadian traffic, which is 40% of what we see here at the shuttle lots. So last year was just a unique experience in the levels of use, how many inexperienced brand new hikers were coming, and this year is another anomaly. Once malls opened, restaurants, movie theaters, we've had the quietest year in years. The border's still closed, so it's been another anomaly. As indoor attractions opened up, we've had the quietest season in a long time. It's been kind of a nice little respite. But when the border opens again, as we hit the real core of the season, August, September, the beginning of October, we're preparing that it's resuming again to full busy use. The garden was filled up by 6:30 this morning, and the shuttle starts at 7. So 2 anomalous years in a row. Yeah, so one of the core parts of our shuttle program is the front country stewards, and the stewards help administer the shuttle, but their real job is to talk to hikers. We have a captive audience here, and educate hikers about leave no trace, about being prepared, because we do get a lot of novice hikers, and the town of Keene participates in a lot of rescues, and the stewards do a great job of helping prepare especially novice hikers for what a big hike in the Adirondacks can be like, and help them avoid the necessity of being rescued. And that's a real core mission of what we do. Help the hikers stay safe, but also teach them about leave no trace, about protecting the resource, protecting the environment. And we don't have trash cans here at the shuttle stops, because that's where we start the conversation about, if you bring it in with you, be prepared to bring it out with you. And that's really a core thing that the town believes in, that we've got to take care of. We're not just providing access and trying to put as many people as possible on the trail. We want educated, safe hikers who come back and hike here again and again and again because they have a good experience.
We have one spot open this morning. Yeah, it just opened up, so it's $10 a day. And where are you headed today? Saddleback.
Naomi. I've been here for 3 years. Basically, we just talk to people about different options of hikes they have, give directions, try to make sure people are prepared for their hikes as they come up, because especially last year we got a lot of people that were really unfamiliar to the area, and still a decent percentage this year. So generally, that's what our job ends up being, and just making sure that everything's in order here. There's not like cars parking down the road and whatnot. So
the job for me is using like my own hiking experience and like being able to talk to people about hikes and like give my own experience to them if they're new to the area, which is really important to me because you always are looking for that online for a hike, and it's important to kind of have a lot of knowledge of the area to make sure you're safe, and that's the most important part for me, is being able to like share my experience with people. So
I would say I really like working here specifically because you get to help people and educate them, and that's always fun, like especially if they can at least take one thing away from the conversation. And like Barry was saying, like just sharing the experience, like this is really fun for me, like I want to share that with you.
I mean, this is a big area, right? So I feel like if you pick your places and of course you're responsible and that sort of thing, it's not as much of a problem for people visiting. I know it's different for the people that live here and are here. But I mean, I think if you're responsible, you know what you're doing, you prepare, you don't stress the system, it can work. You know, a lot of the trails are very washed out. They're pretty much like little rivers or little streams when you walk up. But I mean, it doesn't bother me. I expect it, right? Like, you know, I'm hiking. I'm not looking for a paved, golden path getting up to the mountain. So that's just my perspective. I definitely think, you know, they could be, more curated if that's what people wanted, but it's not what I need. I am very blessed I live 5 hours away, right, in Rochester, New York. Many people don't even recognize or know that this place is accessible. You know, I can leave work early on a Friday and be here for a weekend and see all this. So this is just really an amazing place. And, regardless of overuse or underuse or whatever it is, I really encourage people to enjoy it.
The resource is big enough where with proper management, with the right preparation, with staffing for rangers, for people like me, that it can be safe and inclusive and accessible to anyone that wants to enjoy hiking. There's so much land, there's so many mountains, and we have to do a really good job of protecting them. But there's room for everyone with the correct management.
It's important for us to not discourage people who may want to come out and recreate up here to do so because we're using a label like overuse. We definitely want to see people from all parts of the country and from all parts of New York State to come up here and recreate and not discourage them from being able to access the trail system and the recreational opportunities that are available here. So because of that, I think it's important that we don't use the term overuse and instead we use the term high use.
So wilderness, defined by the Wilderness Act of 1964, is a series of bullet points that define what that is, including things like a sense of solitude, minimal human development, and this is kind of like general, Thoreau-like character that people look for in the outdoors. Places like the High Peaks Wilderness are managed in accordance to those standards. When people talk about high use versus overuse is an indication that we have exceeded both that wilderness character and also the ecological barriers that might be in place, to a point that say certain ecosystems are being impacted beyond what they can handle. They're not able to recover from human-related impacts because there are too many people. That's kind of the basis behind that idea. ADK sticks with the term high use because we are not currently seeing enough data to support the argument of overuse, if that makes sense. And that's one of our main points when we're talking about something like a permit system in the Adirondacks. We're not religiously opposed to that concept, but we want to see more data to support that point. Because otherwise, if you're just saying the thing, it's being overused, there are too many people, without really showing the numbers for why that's happening, without showing the numbers for the impacts, and showing that other forms of mitigation, such as trailhead infrastructure, backcountry infrastructure, like better trails, human-related infrastructure, such as Trailhead stewards, summit stewards, those kinds of opportunities, if those aren't being studied and we're not seeing how those are either supporting or working against certain factors related to high use, then how do we know if it's overuse? That's kind of our main point. We want to see a clearer picture, and we want to see a data-supported picture before we really get into the okay, overuse is happening type thing. The other thing is I know from conversations I've had with others and other organizations that organizations with a DEI focus, diversity, equity, inclusion focus, tend to have some issues with the term overuse because of the cultural associations that has. So, if we're being totally honest, the definition of wilderness it was defined by white industrialists. These spaces were purchased and then eventually protected by white industrialists. They didn't include the conversation or include other groups of people. They didn't include the people who originally owned these lands, such as Native Americans. And so we're making decisions based on a definition that was defined by a narrow group of people. So overuse in terms of their definition, maybe. Overuse in terms of the broader conversation of different groups of people from different backgrounds and different interests, I don't know. And I think we need to have that conversation that includes those other groups before we really get into that conversation as well.